Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to Ealing Council's Regulatory Services Team's first webinar, which is on the lifting of restrictions of Covid-19 for spring 2021. My name is Joe Blanchard. I'm Regulatory Services Manager. We're joined today by two other officers, so that's Mary, the Food and Workplace Safety Team Leader, and Keitna, the Covid-19 High Streets and Public Spaces Business Advisor. So if we could move on to the next slide, Keitna, please. So just before we begin talking about what's going to be in the webinar, I'd just like to point out we do have some translation options available. So if you would like captions in the following languages: Arabic, French, Hindi, Persian, Polish or Urdu, please follow those instructions on the screen. Click the CC button, click on settings and click on captions or subtitles and select the language that you'd like the captions to appear in. Next slide, please, Keitna. So what we're going to cover today is the key reopening dates going forward as part of the government's roadmap to the lifting of restrictions. We'll talk about what premises should consider before reopening, how to make sure their premises is COVID secure. We're also going to run through some sector specific scenarios and frequently asked questions. We'll talk about the COVID business advisory service that the council offers. We'll also provide some information on useful contacts and also the links to the regulations, and we'll have an opportunity for questions and answers to be addressed at the end. So for those attending, if you do have questions as we go, please feel free to use the live event Q&A. You just enter your question in the chat and we'll answer those at the end of the presentation. One thing I would suggest is that you view the content of the webinar, particularly the sector specific scenarios, and then if you have a question after that, please do use the chat function. We're also going to talk about at the end how you may book a private virtual meeting appointment with an officer so that you can answer your question, you can have your questions answered in confidence, or if they're specific to your business, you can make use of that option. But we'll go through all of those details at the end. Next slide, please, Keitna. So let's just run through the key reopening dates. So the one that's already happened, from the 29th of March, the stay-at-home rule ended. Although the advice remained that people should work from home wherever possible. Outdoor sports facilities reopened, formally organised sports were permitted to resume, and gatherings outdoors were also permitted, including in private gardens, but the rule of 6 applied, or up to 2 households could meet. And also funerals can take place with up to 30 people. So the main reason why we're holding this seminar now is because the step 2 changes come into effect from Monday the 12th of April. So outdoor hospitality will be permitted to reopen, and alcohol service by alcohol can be served for those who are seated. Takeaway orders of food, including alcohol, will be permitted. The reopening of all non-essential retail. Close contact services will be allowed to reopen, so nail bars, hairdressers, etc., except for saunas and steam rooms. Weddings and receptions can take place with up to 15 people and funerals up to 30. Indoor leisure facilities can reopen, but only for use by people on their own or within their own household. Outdoor attractions can reopen, including zoos, water parks and fun fairs. Libraries and community centres can reopen. Certain children's activities can resume, and self-contained accommodation can be reopened. So just looking ahead to some of the other steps which have been described in the roadmap. Not earlier than the 17th of May, indoor hospitality will be permitted to reopen, but there will still be some restrictions on that indoor hospitality. So it will be things like the rule of 6, table service only. Outdoor restrictions will be lifted, so gatherings of up to 30 people will be permitted. Weddings and wedding receptions can be held with up to 30 people. Saunas and steam rooms can reopen. Indoor entertainment venues will be permitted to reopen, so cinemas, bowling alleys, etc. Indoor leisure facilities can be used by groups, and the holiday and other accommodation sector can reopen, so hotels, hostels and B&Bs. And then the last step, step 4, so not before the 21st of June, is pretty much the relaxing of all restrictions. So that will enable nightclubs, adult entertainment venues and the provision of shisha on a premises will be permitted. There will be an easing of restrictions on large events. There will be no limits on gatherings, and weddings and wedding receptions will be able to take place without any restrictions. So just one thing to say, although the 12th of April date for step 2 to start has been confirmed by the government, step 3 on the 17th of no earlier than the 17th of May and step 4 no earlier than the 21st of June at the moment are still provisional dates in line with the government guidance. So now if we just move on, Keitna's going to give you some further information on things to consider before reopening. So just a reminder, Keitna's our COVID-19 high streets and public spaces business advisor. Thanks, Keitna.
Thank you, Joe. So before reopening your business after a lockdown, there are some questions you may need to ask yourself to make sure your business is ready to reopen safely. And some of the things you may need to think about include whether a COVID risk assessment has been carried out, and whether NHS QR codes are displayed where it's a legal requirement, such as hospitality businesses and close contact businesses. And do you have enough signage and floor stickers in and around the premises to ensure social distancing can be maintained as well. The other thing is whether you've actually informed your customers and employees about any COVID-19 measures that are in place. And this could be done through posters displayed within your premises, or you can communicate online through emails or on your website itself. And it could also include any changes to the way the service is provided in your business. And you'd also need to consider whether you need to change the layout of the premises, such as having one-way systems or barriers in place, again, to make sure social distancing is well maintained. And also any cleaning procedures that will or have been put in place by your business to make sure any transmission of COVID-19 is minimised. So the next big question is if your business is COVID secure. So on this slide, you can see a list of things that would help you achieve this status. So the first one is having a COVID-19 risk assessment, which will help you manage your risks by identifying any situations or activities which may increase transmission of the virus and how these risks can be removed or controlled. This would only need to be a written document if your business has over 5 employees. The next one is limiting the number of customers allowed in the premises to ensure overcrowding is prevented and social distancing can be maintained at all times. And this could actually lead to the next one, which is queue management. So potentially you could have queues forming inside or outside your premises, which you'll need to consider how they can be managed effectively. For example, making use of reservations and booking appointments to prevent walking customers. And the next one is to display NHS QR codes where it is a legal requirement to do so, such as hospitality and close contact businesses. And you can actually register for NHS QR code on the government website for your business, which you'll be able to print and display in your premises and encourage every customer to scan this. However, you would also need to bear in mind that not all customers have access to the NHS app or have a smartphone. And for this reason, your business needs to ensure that you have alternative methods to capture customer details, such as their name, the contact number, an email address, and a date and time of arrival. For example, this could be recorded on paper, but you need to make sure customer details are not exposed to the public and kept in a secure place. You'd also need to display clear signs and awareness posters to inform your customers and staff about COVID-19, such as reminders on wearing face coverings, maintaining social distancing, and what to do in case they have any symptoms. And also when it comes to social distancing, you need to consider ways this can be maintained inside and outside the premises. So this could be through the use of one-way systems, floor stickers to mark the 2-meter social distancing, and even the use of barriers to prevent access to certain areas of your premises. As a business, you'll need to ensure that there are hand sanitizers or hand washing facilities available for both your customers and staff upon entry into the premises and around the premises as well. It will also be a good idea to reduce contact where possible, such as encouraging the use of contactless payments, or have drop-off or collection areas for products that people come to collect. And finally, having more frequent cleaning within the premises, including highly touched areas such as door handles or counters. Cleaning should take place often, such as between different customer appointments in close contact businesses, or after each customer use within an indoor leisure facility, such as the use of gym equipment, or hospitality businesses where customers have been seated. Cleaning should be carried out regularly, and it will also be beneficial if cleaning records or log sheets are kept to help monitor this as well. And by implementing all of the above that I've mentioned, you'll be ensuring that your business is COVID secure. And I'll now hand it back over to Mary, who will be offering some sector-specific advice and addressing some scenario questions as well.
Thank you, Keitna. So the first sector that we look at is the hospitality sector and Step 2 requirements. So from the 12th of April, outdoor hospitality will be any seating areas considered with at least 50% of the area of the walls to be open at all time. So indoor will be considered to be enclosed or substantially enclosed for the purposes of Section 2 of the Health Act 2006 under the Smoke-Free Premises and Enforcement Regulations 2006. We do encourage businesses to try and take bookings and reservations during peak hours to prevent queues where possible. Staff must wear face coverings at all times when in an open area facing the public, and customers must also wear face coverings when they're not seated. So, for example, in hospitality, if they're using the toilet facilities, they must ensure that they're wearing face coverings. Gatherings are limited up to 2 households or up to 6 people. Alcohol can only be consumed when seated outdoors, and this includes it can only be served when people are seated outdoors. Customers are not required to order a substantial meal when ordering alcohol. There is no curfew on opening or serving hours, and tables and seating areas must be social distancing, so 2 meters where possible or 1 meter with extra measures in place. Next up, thank you, Keitna. So some specific or scenario questions and answers. So if I have no outdoor seating areas to provide hospitality, can I allow my customers to consume food or drinks inside my premises? So no, Step 2 regulations require any indoor parts of the premises where food and drinks can be consumed to be closed. Consumption of food and drinks will only be permitted outdoors or for takeaway only. If you feel if you do have space outdoors of your premises to potentially have outdoor seating, you can contact our street trading team to inquire about the pavement licence. So the designated email is thestreettrading@ealing.gov.uk. Can I provide hospitality to a group of friends who are not related to each other? So the gatherings limit outdoors, including outdoor hospitality, is up to 6 individuals, so the rule of 6, or up to 2 households. This means the maximum number of group of friends to be served would be 6, and anything more is not currently permitted. Can I give access to my customers to use the indoor toilet facilities on my premises? So yes, indoor toilets, baby changing rooms and breastfeeding rooms are not required to close, so they are permitted to be used. Can my customers order their food or drinks inside the premises? So this depends on whether your premises serves alcohol or not. Premises who do not serve alcohol, customers can enter the premises and are permitted to order food and drink. However, they can only consume this outdoors while seated. Premises who do serve alcohol, food and drink must be ordered by and served to the consumer who is seated outdoors in the premises and remain seated while consuming the beverages or food. Am I permitted to provide shisha for consumption outdoors from the 12th of April? So no, the consumption would not be permitted outdoors. Venues are prohibited from providing smoking equipment such as shisha pipes for use on the premises both indoors and outdoors. So this will be permitted from the 21st of June at the earliest. So the second sector we look at is the events. So some outdoor events organised by a business, charity, public body or similar organisation can be organised if they comply with COVID secure guidance and complete a risk assessment. People should still not mix beyond groups of 6 or 2 households. Receptions may only take place in outdoor COVID-secure venues with up to 15 people. To be considered outdoors, shelters, marquees and other structures can have a roof but will still need to be at least 50% open. Guests must wear face coverings when moving around the COVID-secure venue, and they should be seated in a socially distanced manner. So the restrictions on number for events. So funerals can take place with 30 people, and wedding receptions and commemoratives such as wakes can take place with up to 15 people. Is the bride and groom included as part of the 15 people? Yes, the maximum number includes the couple, witnesses and guests. However, anyone working would not be included, such as photographers. Can my business now host wedding ceremonies and receptions? So weddings and civil partnerships can only take place in COVID-19 secure venues or public outdoor spaces. Receptions are only permitted to be held outdoors in the form of a sit-down meal in any COVID-19 secure outdoor venue and must not be in a private garden or public outdoor spaces. So close contact businesses then from the 12th of April. So we do encourage pre-booking of appointments to limit walk-in customers and to prevent crowding within the premises. Ensure customers are asked whether they experience any COVID-19 symptoms prior to booking an appointment. Staff must also wear a type 2 face mask and visors or goggles when providing services to its customers. Customers may only remove face coverings when necessary as part of the service or treatment, such as facials, and sufficient time for cleaning. You must ensure that there is sufficient time for cleaning to take place in between appointments. So just some scenarios and questions regarding close contact businesses. So would my customers be required to pre-book their appointments? I would strongly encourage that you do undertake an appointment-based system where possible for your customers. This would allow time for sufficient cleaning and prevent overcrowding in the premises as well as queuing outside the premises. Would I be required to wear a face covering at all times when serving customers? So anyone providing close contact treatment for customers would need to wear a type 2 face mask and either a visor or goggles. When there are no customers, this is not required. Can saunas and steam rooms be open if they are pre-booked or operate on reduced capacity at my spa massage centre? So under Step 2 regulations from the 12th of April, saunas and steam rooms must remain closed. This would not be expected to reopen no earlier than the 17th of May as part of Step 3. All other close contact services may resume. And finally, we look at the indoor sports and leisure facilities. So ensure that users use the facilities for individual use or as part of the same household groups. Where facilities may be busy, for example during peak hours, consider the use of pre-booking facilities to ensure capacity numbers within the premises are not exceeded. All machines and equipment available must be wiped down before and after each use by users, and all gym and machinery equipment must be spaced out by 2 meters to allow social distancing to take place. You must ensure your premises has good ventilation and circulation of air, such as opening the doors and windows and the use of ventilation systems. So is there a restriction on who can attend indoor leisure facilities? So indoor leisure facilities such as gyms can reopen, however can only be used by individuals on their own or within the same household groups. Can personal training sessions be carried out indoors? So the personal trainer or coach is exempt from the legal gathering limits for work purposes. And can group classes such as spinning classes take place? So no, group classes will not be able to take place any earlier than the 17th of May. And I'll hand you back over to Keitna, who will go through our advisory service.
Thank you, Mary. So within the council, we also have a COVID business advisory service that we offer. This is a free face-to-face bespoke service that we offer to our businesses to help them achieve a COVID secure environment. We also prepare guidance documents and leaflets produced to assist businesses, which are available on our Ealing Council website, and we do encourage businesses to read this first. However, if businesses would like to seek bespoke advice from us, then they can email us with their contact details to COVID-19 businesscompliance@ealing.gov.uk, and we can make further arrangements. So this slide has some useful contact information for other queries that businesses may have, which we won't be able to assist with directly, such as business grants, any queries on street licensing or pavement licensing, or noise queries, which all have their own teams within the council. If businesses experience any issues in relation to breaches on face coverings or gatherings, these can actually be referred to the police by calling 101 or reporting this online using the link included. And any issues on antisocial behaviour can be reported to the Ealing Council Safer Communities team. And here we have some relevant links, including the roadmap that was issued by the government, as well as relevant regulations on the steps measures, collection of contact details and obligation of undertakings as well. So you can refer to the legislation from this. And following this webinar, we'll also be taking personal appointments where you can actually book appointments online with an advisor for 20 minutes at your preferred date and time, where you'll be able to ask specific questions, and it'll be more like a one-to-one sort of service. And that's all from me, so I'll just hand over to Joe now.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Keetna. Thanks very much, Mary. So yes, there's quite a lot of information to go through then. A lot of it is available on the government website, but I would just like to point out we've put some links in the chat in the Q&A section. We've got 3 links in there. So the first one, and something which we've mentioned half a dozen times during this webinar, is that if you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to email us at our COVID-19 businesscompliance@ealing.gov.uk email address. That's our dedicated mailbox for any COVID related business inquiries. It's also the mailbox we use if you have any concerns about businesses that aren't complying, as well as any requests for advice. So please do use that if you have any queries at all. We've also made sure that our website is kept fully up to date with links to government guidance, links to legislation. We have also in Ealing produced Ealing specific guidance. So some of the government guidance is quite wordy and lengthy. And what we've done is condensed down that guidance and made it a bit more practical for businesses to consider when reopening. So we've also put the link to our website in there. The last link we've put in is just to these private virtual meetings where you can have a one-to-one conversation with an officer about any queries in relation to your premises. So we've gone through just an overview of the key dates. We've gone through some sector specific scenarios, and we've also mentioned our COVID-19 business advice service. In regulatory services, we have a range of officers that will be able to provide advice, and that will be carrying out proactive inspections as well as following up on any complaints or concerns that we receive. So over the next few months, officers will be out and about across the borough, making sure that premises are compliant, as well as offering advice and support. In addition, our COVID steward patrols will be moving around our high streets and town centre areas, giving advice to businesses and also giving some public health information and advice to members of the public as they go. All of the contact information that we've put on the webinar today is available on our website also, so please do have a look at those links. We've finished in pretty good time, and we did put some we did make some time at the end for any questions. One's come in as we're talking, and let me just scroll down. So Jags has come up with, some pubs have outside extensions of their main areas, usually temporary roofs. These areas can have airflow, although limited, as they usually look out over a garden or outdoor space. Are such spaces which are not deemed permanent considered as an outdoor space or indoor? Any clarity would be appreciated. So Mary or Keaton can jump in, but my understanding is that well, not my understanding, the legislation expressly describes any outdoor space as one which it may have a roof, but as long as it's 50% or more open, as in the sides are 50% or more open, then that would be described as outdoors. So if you had, for example, a gazebo or a marquee, as long as 50% or more of the walled sides are open, then that could be considered an outdoor space. Happy to follow that discussion up, Jags, if that's not clear. But yes, that definition is taken from the smoke-free regulations, which came into force in 2007, which was obviously about whether premises are considered enclosed or substantially enclosed or not. So yeah, 50% or more open. The only other bit of advice I would give with marquees is and really any other kind of outdoor structure is that if there is the ability for kind of walls or sides to be added in any calculation of whether it's 50% open, we would calculate any sides which could be covered to be covered for that calculation. So if you are using a marquee, do not attach the sides on and roll them back. Just remove the sides from the premises and have them somewhere else, so that there isn't ever any opportunity for people to maybe attach sides or enclose the area more than you would like it to be. Otherwise it may become substantially enclosed and then may not be used. But again, because there are so many different designs of outdoor structures, marquees, gazebos, please do feel free to email the Covid-19 business compliance email address just for some specific advice and practical advice. I think is there one more question? Yes, great. What are the requirements for staff to be tested in restaurants? So currently there are no legal requirements for staff to be tested in restaurants. And I presume this is in relation to the similar kind of lateral flow testing that we are seeing in our schools and in some healthcare settings. Currently there's no legal requirement for that to happen. However, obviously, if staff have any symptoms of COVID, then they need to follow the generic government guidance on self-isolation, testing, etc. So yeah, I hope that has answered that question. I think there's one more as well. Let me just scroll down. So as an office, are we required to have a QR code if the only people currently coming in are key staff? Also, when we have more clients in the office for in-person meetings, do we need a QR code? Now, I'm going to defer this to Mary, because as far as I'm aware, in terms of a strict legal requirement, it's only certain establishments such as hospitality or close contact businesses. So an office wouldn't be legally required to do that. However, we do strongly recommend that using an NHS QR code. It's very easy to sign up for, and also we obviously, you know, in terms of being considered a COVID secure workplace, we'd recommend a QR code or having something similar, such as a you know, a visitor's book, so you know who's in your premises at any given time. This will also help if there are any issues with, for example, staff becoming unwell, to assist test and trace. But Mary, could you just confirm that for me?
Thanks, Joe. Yes, so there is kind of certain sectors that there is a legal requirement for the QR code, and that includes your close contact services, your hospitality sector, and your gym. So an office, as Joe said, isn't legally required. However, if you do kind of have clients coming in that are not part of your daily workforce, we do recommend that QR code just to help with contact tracing, should there be any confirmed cases, but not a legal requirement.
Brilliant, thanks Mary. And then there's another question about what can I do in situations where my customers refuse to wear face coverings? I work in a barber shop. Great, yeah, good question. So face coverings and the enforcement of face coverings is technically a police matter. the police have the enforcement jurisdiction for face coverings. However, as with any premises, you do have obviously the right to refuse access and to ask people to leave your premises. Although, you know, across the kind of regulatory sphere, we recognise that there can be issues with people being worried about creating conflict in their premises, and you do also have people may have valid exemptions from wearing face coverings. So yes, it's quite a delicate subject. There are requirements for example, in a barber's to display face covering notices, and yeah, it's a delicate situation. There is no the person breaching the rules. As long as you've got a face covering notice up, the person breaching the rules would be that individual who's refusing to wear a face covering. So in terms of enforcement, we wouldn't sort of take any action on that. And I would just say, as with any situation, I'm sure you have there are potential for conflict. So obviously, you know, protect yourselves, advise your staff. You can say to people, you know, we don't want people who aren't wearing face coverings in our premises. As a business owner, you have a right to refuse service on that basis. But yes, if the other thing is, the police do say that if you do have any issues with people becoming hostile about face coverings, to contact the police. So that I'm kind of would pass that message on to you. Mary or Keitna, do you have anything to add in terms of that? How to kind of manage visitors that are refusing to wear face coverings?
Just to add, as we kind of do recommend a pre-booking service, it's always useful to kind of remind customers at that stage that they must wear a face mask, so that they're kind of reminded before they attend the barbers that this is a legal requirement and they must do so before entering the premises. So it's always good to operate that pre-book and remind them at that stage as well.
Excellent, thanks Mary. Great, so we've got another couple more questions. What are the maximum numbers allowed in an open-sided marquee from the 12th of April? So I would kind of refer you to some of the the information already given, because it can depend on you know, you need to make sure that people aren't gathering in breach of restrictions, so there shouldn't be breaches of the rule of 6 or more than 2 households, and obviously the special restrictions in relation to weddings, funerals and other events. In terms of maximum numbers allowed, so of course, if you're talking about, say, people, some kind of outdoor hospitality, there are rules on that table seating must be 2 meters or more apart, unless you have other measures in place such as barriers or screens. And then having your seating 2 meters apart, you should be, and also you need to have a COVID-19 risk assessment in place, and that will enable you to calculate what an appropriate capacity is in that open-sided marquee, because of course it depends on the size of the marquee, how many tables there are, what your setting is like. So you would need to do your COVID-19 risk assessment and actually calculate that capacity. The next question is, are we required to wear masks in an office where we are more than 2 meters apart from people working here? We do wear a mask when we have outsiders clients come in. Again, that aspect isn't explicitly legally required, isn't explicitly legally defined in the legislation. So, but there are good practice. There is working safety guidance available from the government, and certainly we'd recommend that you know, people wear masks when moving around the office environment, but certainly when they're sat down and socially distanced, they could remove that mask. But obviously we also need to go back to the you know, just to the generic government messaging: hands, face, space, and fresh air. So make sure the workplace is well ventilated, make sure that hygiene is kept to a high standard, make sure that the the work stations are regularly cleaned and disinfected. So it's not just, you know, face coverings on their own is not sufficient to be COVID secure. It would need to include all of those considerations which Keitna listed earlier. I don't know, Keitna, if you have any further advice on that office space question.
No, Joe, I think you've actually covered the main bits there.
Okay, great. Top marks for me. Next one is the Ealing Council COVID stewards were mentioned to focus on busy areas of the borough. Will that include the Ealing Broadway shopping centre? Well, the stewards are on patrol 7 days a week, so they will go to, they have areas where they proactively patrol, and they'll also be deployed to areas where we've you know, got local intelligence or concerns about maybe people gathering or any other kind of compliance issues. Mary, could you answer that, because I'm not sure we would necessarily go into Ealing Broadway Shopping Centre. I think they may walk through, but of course Ealing Broadway Shopping Centre has its own security staff. But again, the other thing is, if you have concerns about any particular area or breaches, then you can contact either the police or the council. So do remember, the police enforce restrictions on things like gatherings, people gathering contrary to restrictions, not wearing a face coverings, or other kind of behaviour of individuals. So do contact the police if that's your concern. In terms, if there's an issue with a particular business, then that's when you contact the council and our COVID-19 business compliance one. But Mary, could you just maybe say a few words on that, please?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So just to kind of echo what you said, so they do patrols of the high streets, but it's throughout the borough. So this includes any shopping centres. It is intelligence led. So if we do receive complaints, they'll follow up on them complaints. So if it is in a shopping centre, they do that. They do kind of patrols of them shopping centres and the surrounding areas as well. But as they've got their own security, they're not as kind of you know, regular as we would the other high streets. But again, if there is any concerns, you can report it to us, and then we can ask our COVID stewards to follow up on that as well.
Great, thanks, Mary. So another message about this kind of al fresco outdoor hospitality. So is there a fast track application process for street trading? I have to say, I'm not sure. There is the pavement licensing, which is a more fast track and more streamlined application process than street trading. The pavement licensing regime has actually been extended to September 2022. Previously, it was only to September 2021. So I know the government are keen that businesses are given the opportunity to use what outdoor space they have. But my recommendation would be to email directly streettrading@ealing.gov.uk and make your queries there. Their webpage on pavement licensing and street trading is also up to date and has links and application forms, and also they have an online application process, which is obviously the quickest way of doing it. So yeah, I direct you there. Jags has said, I can't imagine anyone not complying wearing masks during a haircut. If they do, let them walk out. I say, on a serious note, it may be worth reminding that this is all happening to ensure we do not have to be back in this situation again. So compliance is for all. Yeah, absolutely. Hence why we're doing this. We're doing this webinar now, sort of just a week before the 12th of April step is taken. The step 3, the one that's going to happen not before the 17th of May, we will be running another webinar a week or two before the 17th of May to give advice to businesses, particularly around indoor hospitality, because as we've kind of gone through, there will be COVID safety restrictions put in place on indoor hospitality. So this will include the spacing of tables, QR codes, supporting test and trace. We're also very keen to assist businesses in making sure that their queues are managed safely and properly. So yeah, thanks for that comment, Jags. Sorry, I think there's another message. Let me just see. Okay, great. Are there any recommended COVID-19 assessors or assessments? that I'm sure there are private consultants out there who could do a COVID-19 assessment, but the process is fairly straightforward, and generally the best people to do an assessment are the people that work and run that premises. So the links we've put up on the website and in this webinar, there are lots of good links. For example, the Health and Safety Executive provide a COVID-19 risk assessment template. They also have a free phone line where you can ring up for advice, as well as email contacts. So there's a lot of information that's freely available that would be very easy for any business to use to create their own COVID-19 risk assessment. Keitna or Mary, do you have anything to add on that, on actually the process of doing a COVID-19 risk assessment?
No, just to add, and you've mentioned, is the Health and Safety Executive actually have a designated page on their webpage. So it's the Managing Risks and Risk Assessment at Work, and it kind of has like the steps needed to manage the risk and more detail on managing that. And as Joe said, there is some templates and examples there, so it is a good start and useful webpage to use when putting in place that risk assessment.
Yep, I agree. So the templates are quite useful. It has some scenarios that could be actually referred to the specific businesses as well. And if you can't find the link, then you can just email us and we can send that across to you as well.
Brilliant, thanks guys. Another question is, people are seen eating inside after the 12th. Do they call the COVID-19 at the council or the police to report it? If it's just people eating inside in a premises after the 12th, yes, do email our COVID-19 business compliance email box. Again, the police's enforcement is around breaches of gatherings, breaches of face coverings. So, you know, if it was a party of people, you know, more than 6 or more than 2 households, then yes, it would be the police in the first instance. I probably should say as well that we do work very closely with our police colleagues, with our safer neighbourhoods teams, and also, you know, and we're fairly well integrated and work in a close partnership. So with other council services and the police, so our CCTV teams, our safer neighbourhoods policing teams, our community safety teams at the council, as well as obviously the other aspects of regulation that we provide. So we work with our licensing teams, trading standards, etc. So we're fairly well integrated in terms of sharing intelligence and also where there might be a joint approach needed. So in that example, for example, if it was a large party, the police would have primacy in terms of dealing with that gathering. And then from the business restriction side, we would follow up with any support or advice or indeed enforcement needed on that premises. So another question about funeral wake in an open marquee. Mary, could you give some advice on the maximum numbers?
Yeah, so wedding receptions and commemoratives such as wakes can take place with up to 15 people. However, you must ensure that this is done in a COVID secure environment, both when seated outdoors as well.
Thanks, Mary. And yeah, that in terms of COVID secure, there's a lot of information on the government website. There's a lot of information on our website, and of course, you know, if you want advice on COVID secure, please do email us. But yes, I'd strongly recommend in the first instance you actually have a look and read and consider the guidance that is already provided for free. It's only a couple of clicks away via our website, so please do have a look at that. And then there's another message from Jags. Will CCTV be used to help direct stewards? Yes, yeah. So we're well integrated with our partners in terms of crime and policing, antisocial behaviour, etc. So they do work together. Obviously, the stewards are patrolling proactively, and we also do direct them reactively, dependent on what's going on across the borough, what intelligence we've received, etc. Okay, I think we've come to the end of the questions. So just to recap, if you do have any particular queries that come up in the coming weeks and months, please do email us. If you have specific, you'd like a bit of a longer conversation, you can book a 20-minute appointment with an officer via the links we've given at the head of this webinar. And I think that, I think we've covered all of the information. Obviously, please do keep an eye on the fact that the step 3 and step 4 dates that we've given are provisional. And as Jags has already kind of mentioned, you know, they are dependent on the rate of transmission of COVID in the borough and across the country going in the right direction. So yeah, please do watch this space. While they've given dates, they certainly aren't certain yet, but that's what we're working towards. Mary, do you have any further comments you'd like to add?
No, that's all from me. Joe, thanks everyone for attending. We will hopefully have one then at the beginning of May for the step 3. But again, we'll send it out to the our comms team. But thank you to all who have attended.
Great, thanks, Mary. And Keitna, do you have anything else to add?
Nope, but just thank you for everyone that's actually managed to join today.
Great. Okay, well, we'll close it down there, and I'll just end with, again, a plea. If you do have any queries at all or concerns, please don't hesitate to use our COVID dedicated mailbox. Thank you very much and have an enjoyable rest of the day. Thank you. Goodbye.